I'll call the meeting to order, if I may, and start by welcoming councillors, welcoming members of the public. Matt, Leah, welcome, and Janice, you and your staff, particularly Genevieve, who is an award-winning cake maker. but you're all welcome, whether you cook or not. So if you could put your devices to silent, that would be useful. The meeting is being recorded. It is being live streamed, and we'll start with a karakia, but unlike Melissa, who's a lot younger than I don't feel the need to stand. Kia ora te Now, putting my notes, we have apologies from Councillor Plummer and Councillor Elims. I'm not sure whether it's permanently or I think in one case it's for late arrival, but I don't think we need to make a distinction. Do I have somebody to move? Thank you, Councillor Woodcock. A second. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And all in favour of accepting the apologies, please say aye. Thank you. Against? Are there any conflicts of interest? Okay. Are there any acknowledgements, tributes? Okay. Is there any urgent business? Okay. We will move to item 6, which is the confirmation of minutes. And in my pile, the minutes from the 25th of June meeting are between pages 5 and 15, and it's basically a meeting where we set rates, set charges, set everything. And are there any corrections that anybody noted? There being none.
Just the one with
Sorry.
Here, just I don't know if it's the one I'm thinking of.
That's all good. You're all good. Excellent. Would you like to move that we confirm the minutes? No. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Olds. All in favour, please say aye. Yes, it's carried. So we come to the main business of the day, which is the Water Services Delivery Plan and its adaptation. And look, I should have also welcomed, I think, Catherine. Are you online now? Yep.
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Janice, Catherine, how do you want to take it from here?
Through the chair, I'll let Catherine lead on this.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry I can't be there with you. I'm up in Dannevirke, where there is another of these meetings going on that I've just stepped out of. And the Masterton meeting is also going on at the moment as well. And you'll be pleased to know I've had confirmation from Kim that they have adopted their plan 15 minutes or so ago. So we've got one decision made, and the Tararua team here are well on the way. So the purpose of today's paper is to get your approval to the South Wairarapa Water Services Delivery Plan for submission to DIA. As you know, under the government's local water done well reform, all councils are required to submit a plan like this, whether they're standing alone or setting up a CCO or joining with other councils to do that. The Water Services Plan is about demonstrating to the government that the council has a plan for delivering financially sustainable, compliant and quality water services for the community. The 4 Wairarapa Tararua councils have worked closely together along with Rangitane and Ngāti Kahungunu since this time last year to deliver the best way forward for water services, and consulted with the community on 2 options in March and April this year. There was strong community support through that process for a regional model, with 88% of South Wairarapa submitters supporting a Wairarapa Tararua model. Since the consultation, councils in iwi have focused on developing and agreeing the governance, financial and commercial arrangements for the new organisation, and developing the future water services delivery plan to show how we will transition from the status quo to a new regional model. As I said, all 4 councils are considering adopting their plans today, and this is the first major milestone in the transition to a new regional organisation. Today you're adopting a plan that sets out South Wairarapa's position in the new entity, and that's because of the decision to ring fence the pricing, which means each council's financial position in the entity has been modelled, and so the plan shows you how each council meets DIA's financial requirements. As you know, there's a challenging transition path for South Wairarapa due to the council's starting position and its capital investment requirements. There are a couple of things that we have already done, actions we've already taken to manage this transition for the community, in particular discussing this with the local government funding authority to get agreement to a longer transition to their new financial covenants. There's also work that we will continue to do through the transition period, in particular looking at the capital program to consider options for rephasing and prioritising to help manage affordability. We have had these draft plans reviewed by DIA over the last couple of weeks, and we got their feedback yesterday on that. The feedback is all actionable, and there's nothing in it to suggest that these plans won't meet the legislative requirements and be accepted. So subject to your approval today, we'll update the plan to respond to the DIA feedback. The Chief Executive will certify it, and our intention is to be able to submit it by the end of next week. That was all I wanted to say in terms of opening remarks. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Catherine. We'll see if there are any questions. Just that's wish to add?
No, Chair. I'm quite happy with what Catherine's put forward this morning, and hopefully we'll be able to deal with anything that you've got between us.
Right. So I think in that case, before we get to that, we will move to receive the water services delivery plan so that we can talk to it. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Please say aye. Thank you. Right, okay, so we open up for questions, comments, thoughts, observations. We're starting here.
I'll start with, I guess, a statement and an observation, or a statement of observation. Anyway, both myself and Councillor Olds have sat on the advisory oversight group for Y+T since its creation. So I just want to acknowledge a few things today, and firstly, the fact that over this council term in its entirety, a huge part of our work has been grappling with the reforms put in place by successive governments, because we have dealt with and considered reform across the previous government and this one. And we've done our absolute best to make decisions that serve our community within that reform framework and the changing reform framework. We have looked at a number of different options over the course of that time, you know, starting with a huge matrix of options that was measured, including partnering with the Wellington Metro councils, and eventually through hard work, decision making and consultation have landed with the Y+T model, which has allowed us to work with like-minded councils, Masterton, Carterton and Tararua, who like us understand the unique needs of small rural towns. And we've worked to, as Catherine said, on the governance and structure of a new fit for purpose regional water services entity that's not only focused on delivering high quality infrastructure to our community, but one that is financially responsible, supports local providers, and is likely to create jobs in our regions. I think the topic on everyone's mind at present is articles that have appeared in the paper, off the back of these water services plans around the cost to service and definitely affordability. And anyone around this table knows that I have been banging the affordability drum for the entire 3 years of this triennium, and it continues to concern me. And I just want to be really, really clear and have it on record that whilst affordability in this setting, and in fact it's a hard word to say, comes down to, as Catherine mentioned, the starting position of this council, ultimately we are working within the framework of reform. And we have made the best decisions possible to date within the framework of reform that we have been given. I think, and I've been saying this for some time, that there is some confusion within our community around what reform means and what it looks like, and that's based on things like varying names of reform, such as affordable waters, and despite our best efforts to make cost-effective decisions, the reality is that central government-led reform will mean increased costs for our community. And just as Catherine has mentioned some things that officers have been doing in the background to address that, we as councillors have also taken steps to address our concerns and our community's concerns around affordability, and we've written to the Minister backings of Mayor Alex Walker of Central Hawke's Bay, and asking the Minister to recognise that the challenges of small and rural councils are unique and that they are very real, and we asked the Minister to take a number of things into consideration and make some tangible change. All that to say that this has been a long journey, that this council has done its level best to work within the confines of reform that we have been given, and make sound decisions as best we can while working with our partners for our community. The numbers, if you are seeing them for the first time, are unpalatable, but a reminder that these numbers are based on the best information we have to date right now. They are based on assumptions going forward, and that the new entity, once established and operating, will have a number of levers and processes that it will be able to enact, and efficiencies it will be able to make the most of. And I would hope that once that is in place over the course of time, that these numbers will change for the better. And I am, whilst, as I said, am concerned about the impact on our community, I do believe that all of the decisions to make to date, and this water services delivery plan does provide the best decision making possible within the framework that we have. So I will be supporting this today.
Thank you, Councillor Roll.
Thanks, Melissa, because I share a lot of what you said today. But I guess that having been involved for a number of years, and even back to the previous government's Three Waters, and I guess this council's commitment, and particularly around wastewater to discharge to land, That decision was made back in 2007. So that's an awful long time ago that we made that decision. It took us a long time to buy some land, obviously to start that process, and that started in Greytown, followed by Martinborough. Over the years, I certainly came on board in 2013, and the Papua property was recently acquired, and we really started to intensify that. I'm going to talk about a couple of errors that I believe were made at the particular time, and one is that we buy this land there for the purpose of discharging treated wastewater to land, and then we all of a sudden enter into an agreement with a gliding club. And it's no disrespect to the gliding club. They were looking for a new home at the time, and ultimately some of our land, our potential discharge land, was swallowed up by the infrastructure of the gliding club. And as a consequence, we ended up by buying some more land adjacent to offset that to some extent. To me, that was an oversight, and it was a fundamental error in my view. But moving forward, we lodged a consent for Featherston in 2017 to discharge treated wastewater to land, and there was strong opposition from our community, and particularly not the bulk of the community, but while there were a number of submissions, it was preempted by adjacent landowners. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I wasn't on council at the time when council chose to withdraw its consent from regional council and start afresh. So the gap between 2017 and the next phase, which was a new application, environmental laws and standards had changed considerably. So it had ramped up what our requirements were quite considerably. And by withdrawing that consent, and once again, I point the finger at previous administrators and officers around the council, by withdrawing that consent, it cost us over $1 million to do that, and we're still paying for it now, because ultimately we're having to apply for a new consent where there are greater constraints on us. And so, you know, I was a councillor who agreed at the end of the day to introduce Wellington Water, or bring Wellington Water on board to manage our water services, because I could see that in-house we weren't doing it right. We were fumbling. We had a minimum amount of staff that were dealing with Three Waters. We had numerous consultants giving us guidance and advice externally. So, and there was no doubt that what Wellington Water offered us was an opportunity to capture that level of expertise and allow us to manage and manage our Three Waters moving forward, and also have the appropriate mechanisms that dealing with the consenting process within the Wellington Water field. But ultimately, as it proved at the end of the day, we just couldn't afford Wellington Water. There was no doubt about some levels of expertise there, but they had a metropolitan thinking cap on against a rural and provincial New Zealand. So for a small council like us, and we've seen the results of that, we've been paying substantially through the nose. Moving towards the decision we're making today, and I've been involved in the original original discussions with the Wellington regional model, and listened to what was proposed from that sector. And to me, I sort of had the indication that we were seeing a Wellington Water on steroids that was going to be impacting us in the Wairarapa. And with careful consideration, talking with our officers and with the other two other Wairarapa councils, we felt that we'd be better to look at something that was more rural and provincial centric, and that we could all work together on this and make it happen. Tararua coming into the mix was an interesting one, because I had a chat with Mia Tracy at a rural and provincial meeting in Wellington and asked what her plans were, and she was sort of two minds about where they were going to go, and made the suggestion that they should perhaps look at a Wairarapa Tararua entity, which ultimately was passed on to see Kim and Marston, and he shot through and had a chat with Brian up there and a few others, and we ended up with an entity that I consider to be sound, and certainly and keeping our rural and provincial thinking. And that's the paper that's presented to us today. And I've got to congratulate Catherine. I think this is what she's put together is absolutely superb. It's wonderful. I think the CEs have worked extremely well together. I'm over the moon that we've got to this stage, because from here, there are possibilities beyond the Wairarapa plus Tararua entity. So I'm certainly supporting this. So thank you. Wow.
What else? I said.
Maybe, sorry,
Yes, sorry.
can I just make,
Well,
Can I just-
putting up your hand to comment?
Yes, I have raised my hand on the screen.
Go for it.
Sorry, what was Amy going to say?
you were online?
Well, look, it's, but please tell us what you think.
Thanks, Mayor Martin. Apologies for not being present, team. I'm certainly agree with Melissa and Colin. It's been a long process that council officers, councillors have gone through to get to this point. Certainly right from the word go, there has been plenty of discussion from government about financial sustainability for this water reform process, but unfortunately there hasn't been the focus from government or any support around affordability for our ratepayers, and that affordability term has certainly come out around the council table with our colleagues and amongst the community. I feel that this is certainly water reform is inevitable. I think it is beholden upon us and upon those councillors who will go from this table to the next table in the following triennium to ensure that the entity that comes out of all this work is a huge improvement on what we have had in the past with our experience with Wellington Water as a CCO. We need to get it right going forward for the sake of our communities, and I think it's also imperative that the councillors around this table who are going to be who are standing again and going forward into the next triennium need to be carrying that torch of affordability forward to ensure that the new colleagues around the table are mindful that affordability is a huge issue for our community, but also to champion that affordability issue and keep having that conversation with central government, our local MPs, etc., to try and continue that message that Deputy Mayor Melissa has spoken about, and also Mayor Alex in Central Hawke's Bay, because to get to where government wants us to go, I feel that we need some more assistance to make it affordable for our residents and our ratepayers. Thanks, everyone.
Well done. Thanks.
Just make a supplementary follow-up. I'm mindful that when decisions and processes like this are so lengthy that it's hard for our community to perhaps keep up with where we're at and what has come before. So just, I guess, a statement and a reminder that the water services delivery plan that we are discussing today is a direct follow-on from the water consultation that we did alongside the LTP, and that the submissions and decisions that came out of that consultation to pursue the Y+T entity option is what has brought us here to the water services delivery plan. So this water services delivery plan is the operational arm of that previous decision. So I guess just trying to put some markers in the ground for our community We consulted. The consultation was clearly in favour of a Y+T model. This council supported that, and in the interim time, we've worked with officers, we've worked with our neighbouring councils on the beginnings of what governance and the structure and the entity will look like. Out of that comes a water services delivery plan. So each one is interconnected, each one is a step towards transition and the standing up of the entity. So I think, yeah, given that there will be people online watching this now and in the future, it's good to really be clear about how it is that we got to this point. This water services delivery plan hasn't just sort of come out of thin air. It is the culmination of a whole lot of work that has been done in conjunction with the community up until this point.
Anybody else at this point? Yes, thank you.
No, I've got nothing but praise for the councillors and the staff and the chief executive working on this plan, and given all the conditions as our deputy mayor has just stated. I think it's a miracle that we've made it to the standard of this timeframe. That's commended. But as Councillor Ellen says, the affordability is a major concern to the community, not helped by some other articles in the newspaper. And yes, as Councillor Ellen said, really, that really is an issue that's obviously the next council has got to work on. Resolutions, but obviously there's that pressure and inquiries and trying to get some changes from government to try and sustain. Thank you very much for all of your done.
Thanks, Kate.
I agree. This has been while it does feel like a long process, we know that actually this considering the timeframe has actually been really tight. We've had to have some things done within a couple of like within 3 or 4 months to be able to make the next step, to be able to get to the next step, to be able to get to the next step. And there has not been a lot of breathing space in here, and that has directly come from central government. So the different information that we've been being given, I absolutely would like to acknowledge the letter that Deputy Mayor Sadafuna actually wrote on behalf of all of us that we were able to put our name to central government, advising them that when some of these places, because we have 3 towns and we have not very many ratepayers considering in these smaller provincial areas, that it's going to be really, really tough. And our ratepayers are already struggling. So when we are being told here at the table that we have to stick to our knitting, carry on with our like doing what we do, no more vanity projects. Whose vanity is this? So I just want to not finish that, but yeah, I feel that can probably be looked at. And I think that we have been put in a position as well where we had to, when we consulted, one of the things we had to consult on was what we currently had, which was working alongside an entity that was of the same framework as Wellington Water. So with what we had currently, and we already know that there was not that appetite out there within our area, within our district, of people wanting to actually carry on using that entity, which had proven that its metropolitan ideas did not fit in with our provincial and rural areas or towns, if you like. So there have been times as well where consultation being fed through to the governance table in the past, like with some of the wastewater issues, didn't follow the proper procedure. However, as we move on, this has come through, but it does feel like we've been doing a lot of running to keep up with things as they've moved on and getting to the next step and then the next step. And so to be here today is actually, I think is, we've done pretty good to meet the timeframes that have been given to us by central government to be sitting here today. So I'd like to thank you, Catherine, for the work that you've done since you've come on board. It's really appreciated. And, you know, I guess for me, it just means that as a council, again, we're being asked to once again tighten our belts. And it's just going to be very interesting if central government does not come to an understanding that places like ours, our ratepayers are going to struggle with these amounts that are being put out there. And that's what my real concern is. But the reality is that I would still rather be sitting with other councils that understand our provincial and rural towns and how we work than to be sitting within a metropolitan area. And so I believe that this is absolutely the right way to go.
We likely would have paid more anyway.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I mean, there's not much more I really want to add. I want to endorse the comments that have already been made by my fellow councillors fully, but also to congratulate the team that have put this together. As Councillor Maynard has said, this has been imposed upon us with some pretty tight timeframes by central governments, for forcing us into a position where we've essentially become the whipping boy for this, and trying to put together a plan while the rules of the game have kept changing by central government. In fact, I think Woody's just pointed out now the third bill was only passed last night. With this reading and trying to put, and at the same time as being told we have to have a plan in place by September the 3rd. Just extraordinary. Affordability for me, as well as everybody said, has always been one of the key concerns, and it'll be interesting to see what happens now with the proposed rates caps that they want to bring in, how all this is going to work under a system that involves that. The constant haranguing by central government for us to focus on our core services is like, that's all we do. And for us to say, start taking core services, some of those services out to be able to meet our affordability ideals will be, well, which of those services do they suggest we lose and who is directly affected by the loss of those services? Vanity projects, I can't think of one vanity project that we have in this council. But as Councillor Maynard said, but whose vanity project is this that we're being asked to pay for? So my congratulations to Catherine and to Robin before you, and to the team that have pulled this together in, I think, most extraordinary of circumstances with an incredibly small team. You have done an extraordinary job, and I congratulate all of you. And yeah, thank you. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, if you don't mind,
You go. Yeah, I've just got one comment.
Just before I wanted to ask you a question, Catherine, but I just comment that I don't think we've got a future. I think that somehow Wellington Water kind of knew exactly what metropolitan councils wanted and didn't know what we wanted. If you go and speak to if you go and speak to Wellington City, they'll tell you they had no idea what they wanted either. So they were just totally all round unsatisfactory. However, my question, Catherine, is this: in your introduction, you commented on possible changes that the new entity might do with respect to altering the way the capital program works, for example. I think you also mentioned that there was potentially some discussion to be had with the local government financing organisation also. So my question is, in accepting this plan, what is it that we are actually accepting? Are we looking at something here that is just pre-programmed to operate up until what's the first 9 years, or are we looking at something which the new organisation might take as a, well, that's a good starting point, but actually we're not going to pay too much attention to that?
So you are adopting the plan as it stands with the information and the assumptions that are available in it at the moment, which sets out our current best view about how we deliver water services into the future. You are also adopting a plan that commits you to pick up the implementation section of that plan and then work through in the way that the implementation section sets out to move from how we're set up and operating now to the new organisation. And in that implementation section, it does identify that there is quite a lot of there is a lot of work to do through that transition, and some of that will include re-looking at some of the assumptions that are in here, particularly with respect to the capital program, as part of getting ourselves into the best position with the best information and the best, systems and plans and things to hand over to the entity. So you're adopting it with the information that's available to you now and the assumptions that are in there now, but you're also recognising that you are committing to a transition over the next 2 years where we will continue to refine that and build detail around that and prepare to hand that over to a new organisation.
Well, I'll follow that up with my sort of next question, will bring me a little bit to the point, which is that the costs that water users are going to bear in the future seem to me to be very heavily influenced by the capital program, particularly for wastewater. And the planned expenditure here rises very, very heavily in the middle of the period, I think to $14.5 million a year roughly, and then it starts to sink back to more modest proportions later on. There's also some costs around drinking water, etc., but as I interpret it, the bulk of the burden is around wastewater. So to what extent could the new entity take those 12 million, 14 million, 14 million, 10 million planned expenditures and just stretch them out over a much longer period?
So I think there's probably a couple of questions or comments in there. So firstly, when you, sorry, can I just clarify, are you looking at the cost per connections or are you looking at the investment requirements?
Looking at page 36.
63 in the agenda.
I haven't got the agenda, I've just got the plan. Is it 36 of the plan?
So it's under, what's the heading? Revenue and financing arrangements?
Oh, sure. Yep. So these revenue requirements are set or are determined through the model to meet the amount of revenue that's required to meet the financial sustainability tests. But they also reflect the capital program as it is loaded into the model, and that is loaded into the model as per the projects and the phasing that were in the LTP. Well, they're not in the LTP now, but in terms of the program that has already been developed. So the entity can take that program, that capital program, wastewater, drinking water, whatever that might be, and rephase, reprioritize that project. It might look at how it bundles work across the region. So it might do, particular types of renewal work in a bundle in order to procure that more efficiently. It could look at what are the aspects of the program that perhaps aren't directly compliance related that possibly could shift out. It can make all of these decisions in a way that would then spread the cost for the community over a longer time period. And the reason the cost would come down is because the revenue requirements would come down as a result. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. It gives me a little bit of optimism, partly because, unlike Councillor Holmes, I cannot look on this with any degree of excitement at all. It would be as exciting to me as probably President Zelensky thinks every utterance from President Trump is, because this represents a disaster. So let me just start with the final connections per water user, which is what Catherine referred to at the end. At the end of time, it basically exceeds $6,000 per user. And who knows what that will be when it comes to inflation and all those other things that get added in, or the things that haven't been discovered yet even. So when DIA put out their, shall we say, general directions, etc., one of the things that they expressed was that the cost per householder connection should be no more than the 2.5% of median household income. Now, the relevant page where it's got the household expected household charges has got, and I've just lost it. I think I had it like
Page 23.
23. Thanks.
Well, on the agenda it is, you know, on the,
Yeah. Good. Oh, that's actually not the page I was looking at.
looking at the 4.8% median income.
Yeah. You think that's on 24?
Oh, sorry, page 30. Yeah,
Ah.
but page 3 was the one before.
Right.
Page 30, is it?
No,
I think so.
not page 30 of mine anyway. It doesn't matter.
Well, it does matter, because I
well,
want to follow what you
you
said.
won't follow, yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
But
yes.
anyway,
Pages are
Councillor Woodcock is correct that the,
30, is it?
that, well, it's not.
It's not actually.
It's page 30 on which, I'm not, that's on the version here on the agenda. 7.1 appendix 1, item 7.1.
Yep.
Down near the bottom.
I found that.
So you go into the South Wairarapa District Council WSCCO in the bottom half of that page. It is the second paragraph.
The Three Waters entity will have approximately 25,000 connections. Is that what you're referring to?
$6,605 in nominal terms, around 4.8% of median
Median.
household income in the district.
Now, in actual fact, the median income in the South, household income in the South Wairarapa is $70,300. What we would hope in 10 years' time, it might be a little bit more than that. But 2.5% of 70,000 is actually 1,700. $6,000 is actually 8.5% of $70,000. So we've ended up with an arrangement that is nowhere near the 2.5%. Now, we're not alone in this, as Melissa mentioned. I think people in Central Hawke's Bay are somewhat worse off than this. But as I have joined the ranks of superannuitants, if you have two superannuitants living in a household and that's their sole income, they are on $43,000 and a bit, and a $6,000 charge is 14%. That. And we have a lot of those people in our community. I just cannot see how this comes anywhere close to something that is affordable for many, many, many people in that we represent. Now, I also agree that for those who point out that the Department of Internal Affairs commentary said certain things have to happen, but being affordable isn't one of them. That this is just a guideline that should be round about 2.5% at the most. But they didn't ever say to anybody, and make sure you stick to that. I suspect 2.5% of median incomes, I think that a lot of people would be quite surprised by that. There is no doubt that if we end up following the path that's set by this, we will end up paying amongst the highest rates in the country from what I have observed so far for water. And we are not the wealthiest part of the country by any means. So it seems to me we have got kind of two choices. You know, we have the Czechoslovakia choice after Munich, where we just bow our heads and get taken over and just do what other people have decided we have to do. Thank you. Or we say, no, we don't accept this. This is just not something that our ratepayers can put up with. There is, of course, a middle and a third scenario, which is that we're not the only people who are just at this moment discovering what this current government has planned for us. A lot of people are going to be discovering in the next week or two what it is. And I wonder how many people are going to turn around at that point and say, whoops, Treat Waters wasn't such a bad idea afterwards. You know, can we bring back a government that's actually going to provide, hopefully, a balance between, if you like, clean, safe drinking water, but also water that ordinary people can afford. No, sorry.
I just wanted to add to your point, I guess, the rock in the hard place that we find ourselves in is had this council made a decision to take an alternative approach, had it been Wellington, I think the projected costs for the same period are sitting at 7.5, closer to 8,000. So we would be looking at a water services delivery plan with similar numbers. Under a standalone option, had we been able to get that past the powers that be, at the same period we would have been looking at projected costs of $11,000 per year. So whilst I, as I said in my opening statement, I hear you and I share your deep concern for costs, and it was, gosh, maybe 18 months ago that we had DIA online, and I, said to them, you've stated all of these parameters that we must meet, but you haven't mentioned affordability, and they said affordability isn't a measure, and I was stunned. But as unpalatable as the numbers within this water services delivery plan may seem, the alternatives are in fact far worse. And again, as Councillor Maynard has so rightly said, and as Councillor Bosley has so rightly said, this isn't because of decisions made by this council under this framework. This is because of the framework, and we have, over the course of this triennium, written to several ministers around water and the position that we find ourselves in, and the abatements and regulations and inflexibility of the situation we find ourselves in. I mean, I'll be the first to admit that I was quietly surprised when we actually got a response from the minister regarding our concerns around affordability this time, and I'm grateful. But for the most part, it was lip service and a wee confirmation that the government will make a rebate available on water. Yes, we absolutely need to keep banging the drum at government around affordability. But I think if we take your option of saying no to this plan and we have nothing to submit to the DIA on their very hard and fast line of 3 September, we find ourselves in a position where they will enforce upon us what they dictate anyway. And the risk we run is that is worse than what we see before us. And as I said in my opening statement, this council, over a very long course of time, have made the best decisions possible with our community at the heart within the framework given. I believe in reform. I believe that our water needs to be done better. Do I like the framework we're working within? Not particularly. Am I concerned for our community? Extraordinarily. But unfortunately, what we have before us currently is our best foot forward in terms of doing good for our community.
Councillor Deatlands were
I got,
old.
yeah.
Councillor
What?
Cock, I'm not sure. We have to. We'll go alphabetical. A is always going to be.
Vera.
And that's the. Yeah. Hey.
Thanks, Mayor Marston. I'd just like to make the point that we're in the position we are, and no doubt the costs are, the proposed costs are where they're at because of the situation that we as councillors around this table have found ourselves in. When we put our hands up 3 years for election, we had no idea that we needed 150 million of capital works to be done to our 3 water infrastructures in the South Wairarapa. We had no idea that significant projects that had never been occurred in previous years, or projects around our 3 water infrastructure had been deferred to keep the rates low at 2.5% or 3.5% in years gone by. I think it's and while we are not the only council in the country who is suffering from deferred maintenance of our 3 water infrastructure, and a lot of other councils are facing the same challenges. I think whether we could probably debate till the cows come home whether the Labor government's 3 water proposal was better than National government's local water done well proposal, and but that is the framework that we have at the moment to work with, and I think everybody working on this project have done the best that we can, or that they can, and I think, as I said before, those going forward into the following trienniums have to ensure that that affordability issue is shouted from the rooftops to central government, and the work is continued to take place to ensure that our ratepayers are prioritised in the new entity, so that we get a better level of service than what we've had in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Aidan.
Yeah, I really just want to mention some of the concerns that have been raised, and some of the concerns that we raised in those early days about some sort of oversight in terms of efficiencies and costs that are going to be imposed on our communities. And government came back to us and said we're going to appoint an economic regulator, and the role of that regulator will be to make sure that the capital works are delivered in a timely manner, as well as watching what the entity will be charging in terms of its water service deliveries. And one, I guess to me, that was a little heartening, because there is somebody independent Commerce Commission overseeing what charges are likely to be imposed on our communities. And I'm sure that the economic regulator will be ensuring that what's imposed is affordable for our communities in the future, even though we may be faced with some substantial rises. I still think at the end of the day that that'll be one of their roles. And they'll be reporting back to government, I'd imagine, and saying, Featherston's getting priced off the market because of its water charges. I can't imagine that happening. Thank you.
Woody.
Thanks, Chair. I'll start off by saying thanks to originally Robin Wells, and then Catherine taking her spot, and Jen helping out, all the other staff involved. Much as I don't agree with a lot what we're doing, it's you guys have been put in a real hard spot with real tight time frames, and I understand the stress and everything that must go with that, and appreciate it. Might have to just forgive me here. I'll be a bit lost, because I'm just going to change the way I was going to say things after Martin bringing up the 4.8% median income. I've actually got that jotted down here, Martin, too, and I couldn't figure out who was getting paid enough to make it 4.8% in their salary, because it ain't me. And I had here that some people would be paying 10 to 15% of their income on water alone, which really concerns me when you look at other rates that have to come on top of that, as what we will now call council rates, and how those costs seem to always be going up and up and up. I do feel for us with the government push, the way this has been done, no one's been given enough time to get through this and come up with different options and look outside the box. Very much forced. Financial models that are used are really accurate. In this case, I'm hoping they're really inaccurate, and it's half the cost of what they're saying. I haven't seen yet one thing from government about ways they're helping to cut costs through their overbearing rules, regulation and legislation, or any funding, especially for small councils like us. It really does feel like a purposeful push by government and the corporate way to help their agendas, and also a way to force amalgamation upon those that don't want it. The whole CCO model that governments are trying to push is worrying. As the Auckland Mayor once called it in a meeting a while ago, they're council controlling organisations, not council controlled. But perhaps the most worrying or disturbing, if you like, thing is the order from the government's DIA department that when working out the financial affordability for these entities, we are not allowed to take ratepayer affordability into account whatsoever. Now, this is just so wrong, it's not funny. That should be a main prerequisite of doing things like this. I'm a firm believer that, unfortunately, Wellington Water and the Wellington side, I'm glad we haven't gone with Wellington, don't get me wrong, I'm wrapped. We're out of that side of things, but I do believe over the last 7 years, they have put us so much in this boat. They have cost this community dearly with their overinflated costs. Those corporate structures around the country that seem to be pushed are a huge uprise in the costs, full stop, right around the country. There are councils around the country that have done quite well doing it in-house on their own. Now, those sort of models should be what have been looked at, but unfortunately, we haven't been given the option. Now, like I said, we haven't been given this option, and there's lots of reasons for and against for different things. But I'm not a believer of the iwi side of it. I think it's just another overbearing bureaucratic cost and complication to the matter. I don't think they should be involved. This should be left down to people that actually know the water structures and the water infrastructure, etc. I am concerned about a few little figures. It states, I wasn't a supporter of stormwater staying within the model. And I see we're down as having 18 kilometres of stormwater pipe. Now, I don't know where that is. The only conclusion I can come to is it's every culvert pipe on every road in the district. Maybe you can give me an answer to that. So, as I've said in previous meetings, including with DIA and Wellington Water, I've asked the question more than once of what percentage of money should be spent on actually putting pipes in the ground with contractors, and what should be on what I call, for lack of a better word, bureaucratic bullshit. I can't possibly vote yes to something that purposely adds huge costs to the ratepayers, and those are the ratepayers that voted myself and the rest of everyone at this table in to keep costs to a minimum, and this doesn't do that.
We'll circle back to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I just wanted to, I just wanted to pick up on some of the comments that you made, and I don't disagree with any of the comments around the challenge of affordability. So this is not in defence of the numbers from that perspective, but I do just want to clarify that the numbers in the table are an average per connection charge. They take the revenue requirements that the entity needs and divide it by the number of connections. That doesn't necessarily translate into the bill that a household will receive. the entity will need to consider how it sets its pricing, how it might distinguish between residential customers and commercial customers, for example, you know, how it might kind of approach that. So while there are clearly affordability challenges here, I just wanted to clarify that this table doesn't represent the bill that will turn up in the mailbox for a residential household. There's still some work to be done to clarify exactly how the entity will structure its charging over the first few years of operation.
Thank you for that.
And just a further, background clarification to that is a reminder, not for this table, but more for anyone watching, that the new entity will be the new owner of all of our assets. So, which is quite a different model to what we currently have under the Wellington Water structure, where we own the assets and we have a relationship with Wellington Water to maintain and to upgrade and to look after a capital program previously. This will be a much different model where the owners of the assets are also the people tasked with their upkeep and upgrade. And this council will have a relationship with the new entity and will be able to provide guidance, but there will be a board that sits over that new entity and a shareholder forum made up of the 4 councils that will work together. And so there will be a much greater responsibility sitting with the entity to get this right in terms of their role in looking after the infrastructure and therefore the on-charging than anything we've seen previously to date. Yeah, just a reminder.
We need to make a decision.
Right. Any other comments? None. So we come to recommendation 2, which was agreed that the attached water services delivery plan for South Wairarapa Council as part of the Wairarapa Water Services Organisation be submitted to the Department of Internal Affairs. I have a mover, Councillor Holmes. I have a seconder, Councillor Maynard.
I will.
Thank you.
Too late, Aidan. I bet you.
You did. Councillor Holmes.
No, I think everything's been said. I'm quite happy to move on with the resolutions now.
Nothing to say? Anybody else want to say? No. Okay. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And
Aye.
against? No. Right. As carried.
Wait. Aidan, did you say aye or no?
I said aye.
Okay, right. It just happened at the same time. No.
Sound like no.
Councillor Wood. No.
Yes.
It would have made no difference what councillor Elam.
No. I went to Councillor Elam's.
Okay, recommendation 3, agree that the attached commitment agreement be submitted to the Department of Internal Affairs alongside the water services delivery plan. Councillor Olds recommends. You got him first again, Councillor?
Look, he's got his hand up.
Yeah, I know. He's got a small problem, but never mind. Okay, why should we agree with this, Councillor Olds?
I think the conversation's been had. I think I don't believe that it's worth mentioning anything else at this stage.
Okay.
And
No.
I just want to, and just, I'd just like to say that, you know, at the end of the day, through submission, we know that 88% of what we got through was for this Y+T. This is what we're looking at now, and that's why I put my hand up to second this.
Yeah. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? No.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty sure he did. Any abstentions? Okay, roll to 4. delegate to the CE the ability to make final changes to the water services delivery plan, including any amendments resulting from review feedback provided by the Department of Internal Affairs prior to the Chief Executive's certification of the plan and submission to the Department of Internal Affairs.
Aidan here to say no.
Okay, so we want Aidan to move this. Okay.
Second,
Do we have a second?
whilst the seconding.
Seconded.
Okay, Councillor Bosley. Second. So it all comes down to you in the end, Janice.
Does.
No, yes, it does.
Okay, any comments or no? We'll put it to the vote. All in favour, please say aye.
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 And against?
No.
Okay, it's an aye from Councillor Woodcock. Now, we apparently have to approve 1.25 million of unbudgeted expenditure to meet our share of the Water Services Organisation establishment costs as set out in the commitment agreement. Do I have a?
Excuse me, Mayor Martin, can 5 and 6 be done together because that explains why?
Okay, no, that we can certainly do that, though the second one doesn't need a, I suppose. we
Yeah,
can.
so if you approve and
Okay.
noting that.
Approve and note the unbudgeted expenditure will be capitalised and borrowed and transferred to the WSO and go live as part of the council's transferable political debt.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm happy to move.
Happy to second that.
And do we, all in favour, please say aye.
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 Okay. Any against? No. That's against. And right. So number 7. Delegate to the CE the ability to prepare the Water Services Organisation Constitution Shareholders Agreement in line with the commercial agreements appended to the commitment agreement. Who's hasn't had a go at moving one of these yet?
I haven't moved one.
Okay, Councillor.
Haven't moved.
Absolutely.
Melissa hasn't said much.
Councillor Eland, you're seconding it, maybe?
I could second that.
Yes,
Or,
excellent. Okay.
Thanks, Aidan.
or Deputy Mayor Melissa
Leave me
could
hanging.
second it.
Oh, no, you got there first. So
Yeah.
all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And lastly, sorry, my apologies. And lastly, number 8, note that the final versions of the Constitution and the shareholders agreement be brought back to the council for approval in September 2025.
September/October. Juggling meeting dates at the moment,
You think we should just say later this
or
year?
just back to council for approval.
Yeah, let's do that. Because
Before the election.
Because so within this training though.
Well, yeah, we're just juggling the dates between September, October at the moment for council.
okay, so the final wording ends with a full stop after the word approval. I will move that. Do I have a seconder, please? Yes, Deputy Mayor. All in favour, please say aye.
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 Actually, I confess I was a little concerned that September did seem to be a bit of a sort
It would be
of gun in our heads. I don't know if I had to say, but,
This,
Next week.
It's not left it myself.
So if we could now move to page 177, actually is pretty much the second to last page. We come to the next matter of business, which relates to a resolution to exclude the public. So the recommendation is that we exclude the public under section 48 of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987, because we wish to discuss some recommendations from the CE Employment Committee. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor Woodcock, seconded Councillor Bosley. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we'll just have a little intermission at this point. Whilst Amy does magic things with the technology.
We're going to start in the